Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the channel, guys. Matt here, back again, and we're gonna continue on our little story. So if you guys just landed on this video, if you want to get the full kind of scoop on what I'm talking about here, just go back to my previous videos and just kind of get a little bit of a preview on what I'm going to be talking about here. So talking about me at my previous employment with the government job, which I don't really want to get into specifics, but um, yeah, so I ended up after finishing that first crazy year, um, in that with that toxic supervisor that I had. Um, I decided, no, you know what? I'm gonna go back the following year and go through that same, well, not the same, well, talking to talk about more about that, but knowing that the supervisor's still there, um, still um, taking these kind of medications for these hormone changes that she's going through for transitioning, knowing that she's going to be all crazy, and just knowing what I'm getting myself back into. So I made the decision after that year that I finished that first year contract that, you know what, I'm gonna go back. And so this job, again, it was a unionized position, but I didn't have a permanent position, so I had to go re-interview again to get it. And luckily, well, I ended up getting back in, um, which I believe was based on my performance the previous year and how I held up. And yeah, so I went back to the job knowing, that she was still going to be there. And, judging by, um, when I first arrived there, um, well, not when I first arrived, when I came back, I apologize if my communication's all weird. I'm pretty tired today. But so the first, couple weeks, getting back into the job, with the supervisor being there, still acted the same. Still, she would, complain about all these things about what she had to do and her responsibilities and how they're worse from the, worse off than the previous year, and how she didn't really want to be there, but she has to be there because she can't find another job at the moment. And all this stuff was just so negative, so draining. And we'd hear it, all of us, everybody that worked under her would hear it every single morning. And, morale, everybody would just completely collapse, you know. But about a month or two in, she started to get so pissed off and so upset that she was telling us about possibly quitting. And now, when I heard about that, I was like, oh, thank God. If you were to, leave and take that negativity with you, and just, morale here would just completely change. But the problem with that was, little did I know, was that uh, there wouldn't be really anybody to replace her. But I'll talk about that a little bit more. Um, so what she ended up doing was she ended up um, creating an injury. Well, this was my belief, was that she needed kind of a scapegoat, because she realized that she didn't want to be back there this year. She didn't like her position, but she had to come back for, probably financial reasons and whatnot. So I believe that, because the story just got weird, was that, we were working on a couple projects within the area, like construction projects. And, one of the projects involved carpentry. And um, one day out of the blue, we just heard that she had sliced her hand open, and, it was a really bad injury, and she had to, you know, go rush to the hospital and whatnot. And I don't know if any of that was true, because she came back the next day, and, her hand didn't seem that bad. And I don't know if she was trying to maybe get workers' comp, or, you know, I don't know if it was just an excuse. But when we saw it, I didn't really think of it as too bad. But the weeks after that event, um, she decided to take stress leave, and this was at the beginning of probably one of the busiest times in this area throughout the year. This was the summertime peak season for people to come through here, and it was going to be chaotic. Now she just left, and they had no like upper management. The superintendent really didn't have anybody to replace her. So me being me having the most experience there out of everybody, because I was the one that came back the following year. Everybody else that got hired on during this period was new. They didn't really know anything. I knew kind of the ropes and what to do, all the tasks that needed to be done, and just I knew pretty much all the operations. So I had to pretty much, well, I made the choice to pretty much step up and try and lead. This was I think, looking back, this was a blessing, in disguise, because you know my jobs before that, I've never led a team. I've never really had the opportunity to, you know, kind of run my own show, so to speak. And, now I had all these, you know, all my coworkers and stuff that were looking up to me, all the students that got hired on looking up to me, wondering what to do and wondering how things were going to run without her. So I had to step up, and I put it in my head that, what, this was a golden opportunity for me, because of the way, you know, the area was structured was that, upper management, they had their own responsibilities. They had their own, um, they had their own areas to take care of. And, now that she was gone, she was kind of like, the she would bring down morale quite a bit for our team. Now I had the opportunity to try and uplift people, to try and, you know, turn things around and actually run things as a proper leader, which I stepped into. And I was quite surprised on how, I ran things. There were things that I did that I didn't even know I could do. I had zero managerial experience coming into this. I've never really led a crew. I've never really been the leader in jobs where I'm at. And this year was quite interesting. I stepped up big time, and I showed up a lot of people, and I definitely made a big impression to management and the superintendent. Um, that really he made a couple ironic comments near the end about how he got very few complaints, and I found that kind of funny. This specific job, and I made it a goal. I made it a goal to try and achieve this, was to try and have as many, sorry, to have as to have as little complaints as possible. I mean, you were gonna get complaints anyway. It's his job as a superintendent to deal with complaints, but I made it a goal that she left was, when our talks to supervisor um, took leave, was, what, I want to run things better than her, and you know make a good impression. And I did exactly that. I ran operations, more efficiently than she did. And again, I don't really want to boast about this too much, but that experience, going through that tough time, and then deciding to come back the the following year, knowing that she was going to be back, knowing how toxic she was, and I just pushed on, and it paid off in the end, man. Like, I got you know some some great experience leading a team that I probably would have never gotten if I hadn't showed up again. And you know after that whole fiasco, after the season was done, and you know we managed to run things without a you know without her being in that position. I felt really quite like proud of myself that I managed to stick through that. you know and lead a team and become that person that people look up to. And you know and it was tough. Like I had to manage a lot of stress with that. Obviously, everybody goes through stress, right? It's nothing special here that I'm talking about, but I had to handle quite a bit, and I took on a lot myself. Like I filled my role, my position and her position, um, at once, and decided to take it on. And looking back on it, I'm really, really, really glad I went back, because hadn't I gone back, if I didn't go back, I would have never gotten to experience and build that leadership that now I can confidently say that I've started to build. And yeah, so that was a very interesting period. And if anybody has, I know people that have quit jobs before that just left because of mental health reasons and because it was too hard, it was too stressful. Going through that first year, I said to myself, I don't feel like challenged enough. I feel like if I go back, I'm gonna, you know, definitely put myself through the stress again, but I think it's gonna pay off. And man, those 2 months where it was peak season and I was running, operations way better than she did, really just like I had a moment where I was like, man, I can't even believe I did that at the end. You know, that's probably why I went back, right? So yeah, hope you guys enjoyed this little kind of ending off of my story of my previous employment. Um, the great thing about that is I have a great reference from um, the superintendent and that part and that job in particular. So yeah, um, hope you guys enjoyed these little. I'm at a loss for words today. I don't know why. My communication, I'm just pretty tired. I just came back from work, so hope you guys enjoyed the video, and I'll see you guys for another topic. And yeah, we'll see you guys later. Thank you.